Turn the camera on.
We are on.
Hey, call your next witness.
State will call Nelson Buckwald.
I want to remind counsel to please stay near a microphone, please.
Yes, I've been sworn.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear affirm that the testimony you shall give in this cause to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Do either side wish to invoke the rule?
I didn't know that there were other witnesses. Yes, Your Honor, we would like to vote for the
Okay.
Would everybody?
Right here. Every witness, every side will be responsible for informing the witnesses that they are not to talk to one another while the trial is taking place. They're not allowed to watch the trial either. All right.
Come to the speak. Thank you.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Could you please state your entire name and spell it for the court reporter, please?
Nelson Forrest Buckwald, Buckwald.
Mr. Buckwald, what do you do for a living, sir?
I am the president and owner of Buck's Gun Rack.
Is Buck's Gun Rack a family business?
It is.
How long has it been in the family?
68 years.
Where is your business located? Where is Buck's Gun Rack?
It is at 607 West International Speedway in Daytona Beach.
Is that actually kind of right across the train tracks here, not, stone's throw away?
A couple of blocks from the train tracks.
Maybe if you had a really strong arm, it'd be a stone's throw. I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification as States A. Do you recognize that photograph, sir?
Yes, that's an exterior photograph of my business.
And it fairly and accurately represents and depicts the exterior of your business?
It does.
Your Honor, at this time, I would move States A into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Without objection, the item will be admitted as evidence. Anytime you hear me say the words, the item will be admitted as evidence, I mean that is your evidence. You will get to see that item during your deliberations, and you'll take it with you back to the jury room. Thank you.
And permission to publish it, Judge?
Okay, you may do so. You wish to do that with the screen?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, you may proceed.
I'll just proceed, Judge. That page is not coming up on the screen.
Okay.
Mr. Buckwald, why don't you just hold that up for the jury? We'll do it the old-fashioned way.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. You can put it down. Now, Mr. Buckwald, are you familiar with the purchasing process that has to happen, or the pre-purchasing process that has to happen when somebody buys a firearm?
Absolutely.
Could you describe that for the jury, sir?
When someone decides to buy a firearm, the law requires they fill out a federal form known as the 4473, which records the customer must fill in the information, their name, their address, date of birth, and answer a series of questions about their background. At that time, the employee of my store will verify the customer's identity using a document most commonly used would be a Florida driver's license.
Yes, sir.
But there are other ways to provide that. And they'd fill out the form. There is in Florida a mandatory waiting period between purchase and delivery of a firearm of a minimum of 3 business days.
Okay, so they have to come in and fill out the paperwork. Your agency then verifies who they are through the
Correct.
identification.
Correct.
And then they have to wait 3 days to make the purchase.
The purchase is made at the time. They
Okay.
have to wait 3 business days before they can receive the firearm.
Okay, so they can pay when they fill out the paperwork, but they can't get the gun till.
That is our store policy. The purchase is completed or made when they give us money.
Okay. Let me show you what's been marked for identification as States B. It's a 3-page document. Is that one of those forms that you were just describing for the jury, or an older version of the form?
That is correct. It is the ATF Form 4473.
Do those appear to be documents from your store?
They are.
And is your signature actually on any of those documents?
It is.
So does that mean you would have been the person who actually assisted the customer completed the documents in your presence?
That is correct.
Your Honor, at this time, I would move this item into evidence. We had a business records certificate that was previously filed with the court.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Without objection, the item will be admitted as evidence. Becomes States number 2.
And we'll try the screen again if we can. If you look behind yourself, Mr. Buckwald, permission to publish, Judge, the exhibit.
May do so.
What are we looking at here, Mr. Buckwald, in terms of the form?
That is the Form 4473, showing that a Mr. Robert T. Hayes purchased a firearm in our store. It's also documented in the upper right-hand corner, our numbering system indicating, where it stays in our records.
And does the form include the individual's social security number?
It does.
Does it include a date of birth as well?
It does.
And does it include an address?
It does.
And can you read what the address there is on Mr. Hayes' form?
427 Jefferson Street, Daytona Beach, Florida.
Let me go to the next page now of that exhibit. On this page, down at the bottom, what's down at the bottom underneath the buyer's signature?
It is a description of a firearm.
And what firearm is this form, based upon your experience selling firearms, what firearm is this form describing?
That is a Smith & Wesson model SD40VE, serial number EBB7307, which is a pistol, a handgun, in a .40 Smith & Wesson caliber.
Is that a semi-automatic pistol, what's commonly known as a semi-automatic?
It is.
And what's the difference between a semi-automatic and a revolver, generally?
They work on totally different principles. They do the same thing of firing a cartridge. The best example is the difference between a car and a motorcycle.
Okay. Let me ask you this about a revolver. Does a revolver typically discharge a casing?
I'm sorry.
The casing, when a revolver is fired, does the casing stay inside the revolver?
It does not. A semi-automatic will discharge the used case when it's fired. A revolver, the cases remain in the cylinder.
Okay, so revolver they stay in, semi-automatic it's discharged.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let's go to page 3 of this. And is that your signature there?
It is.
And now the date transfer is completed. Does that mean the date that the firearm would actually be picked up by the purchaser?
That is correct.
And when your company sells firearms, do you actually have a receipt that's filled out when the purchase is physically made?
Yes, we do.
I'm showing what's marked for identification as state C. Just the first 2 pages there. Does that appear to be a receipt from your store?
It does. It indicates that the customer, Robert Hayes, put a deposit on a firearm.
And before you go any further, Mr. Buckwald, Judge, I am going to move this item into evidence pursuant to the business records certification as well.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
I'm just getting marked first, sir.
Without objection, it will be admitted. It becomes number 3, correct?
Yes, sir.
And permission to publish, Judge, while
May do so.
questions are answered. Mr. Buckwald, what does this receipt indicate to you?
That the customer selected a firearm, put a deposit on it, and put it into layaway, which means there was no indication of he was planning to pick it up right away.
Okay. And did he actually pick up the firearm?
He did at a later date. He put it on layaway on 17 of November '05 and retrieved the firearm, paid the balance due on December the 2nd of '05, which would have included the 3-day wait in that period.
Thank you, sir. And the firearm that's indicated on the receipts you're looking at, is that the same firearm that you mentioned earlier that was on the federal records or the federal application?
That is correct.
And is that the Smith & Wesson .40 caliber VE?
Correct.
And did Mr. Hayes purchase anything else based upon this receipt from your store?
When he paid off the firearm and picked it up, he also bought one box of American Eagle .40 caliber ammunition. That was 50 rounds in there.
And that's indicated on the receipt as well?
It does.
And what is the total amount he paid for the firearm and for the bullets?
The total amount, well, on the day he retrieved it, or the,
Based upon the receipt.
okay, $288.80.
Thank you, sir. And I'm finally going to show you State's D for identification. Do you recognize that photograph?
That is a standard copy of the Smith & Wesson Model SW40VE.
Is it fair to say that that would have been what the gun that you sold looked like?
It would have.
Or at this time, I would move State's identification D into evidence as the next numbered exhibit.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Without objection, it will be admitted.
And permission to publish.
May do so.
This is the picture you just looked at, Mr. Buckwald.
That's correct.
And does it say anywhere on the firearm, or point at it, does it have an indication of the model year?
It does.
And what does that say?
That says SW40VE.
And does that stand for Smith & Wesson .40 caliber VE, the same gun we've been talking about here today?
It does.
Your Honor, may I have just one moment?
Yes.
I'll tender the witness, Your Honor. Thank you, sir.
Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
A couple of questions. Back in those days, were you actually in the shop, running the shop? Back in the 2005, 2006 period?
I've been there since 1981.
Yes, sir. And during that period, did you go to gun shows and things of that nature?
On occasion.
This .40 caliber Smith & Wesson that was purchased by Mr. Hayes, was that a popular weapon for public to buy?
I would say yes.
And during that period, did you sell quite a few of those out of your shop?
I could not tell you how many we sold, but excuse me, they were a popular weapon based on their price points.
Yes, sir. And I'm not looking for an exact number, but you would have sold more than one to Mr. Hayes, is that correct? During that period, it would have been sales that were more than just one sale to Mr. Hayes. You would have sold to the general public, other?
That is correct.
And during the period, even preceding that, during the period of 2005, I know you indicated it's true you sold others. Is there any reflection on on that particular gun compared to other guns that you may have sold?
I don't understand your question.
Um, Did you sell other .40 caliber pistols?
Yes, we do.
And how many other types of pistols fire at .40 caliber?
I would say probably 40% of modern firearms sold today, or sold during that time, were .40 caliber. It was very popular when the FBI changed from a 9mm to a .40 caliber. The general public, said, well, we want the same caliber.
And you also indicated you sold some American Eagle ammunition. Was that a popular type of ammunition that was sold to the general public?
It's a common brand that we carry in the store, and based on its price, yes, it's a popular caliber.
And is the American Eagle generally used for target practice?
That particular box of ammo was generally considered a full metal jacket bullet, and is generally used for target practice.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
May the witness be excused?
He may, Your Honor, yes.
All right, if you carefully step down, don't trip. Thank you. Call your next witness.
Yes, Judge. The next witness would be Leroy Vaughan. I believe he's on a Zoom, Judge.
Okay. By agreement, the witness is going to be permitted to testify through Zoom.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the witness will be on the screen right here. Bill?
See it?
Let's see.
Ms. Vaughn, can you unmute yourself?
I clicked, yeah.
Mr. Vaughan?
I don't know that they can hear us. Mr. Vaughn, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, George, I'm probably too.
Oh,
I can enlarge it, see if I can enlarge it.
wait, hold on. Let's get the witness on. You can pin it, that's okay, but we need to get a witness on. Can you call them and tell them to unmute themselves and turn the camera on? There you go.
I still have my community.
Mr. Vaughan? Can you now,
Okay,
can you undo?
he's on, can you
Said pin it?
Pin
can
it.
you pin? Okay, okay, thanks,
Yes,
Vicky.
sir.
That's good, that's good.
Okay, you're ready to go, all right.
Yes.
Says Connie Vaughan.
Okay.
Mr. Vaughan, can you hear me?
Yes, sir?
Okay.
Mr. Vaughn, this is Judge Zambrano. Please raise your right hand and be sworn.
You solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I don't think he can hear you.
Yes?
All right, thank you. You may proceed.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury and tell us your name and spell your last name?
My first name is Leroy Vaughan, Vaughan.
Mr. Vaughan, where do you reside now, sir?
I'm sorry, I have a bit of a hearing problem and it's not coming through real clear. I'm
Right here.
sorry.
You got to speak in this microphone.
Not right.
No, that one right there.
Mr. Vaughan, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay, great, sir. Where do you live now, sir?
Alto, Michigan.
Back in 2005, where did you live?
Alto, Michigan, and 6 months on Palm Drive in Port Orange, Florida.
If I could bring your attention now to December 26th of 2005, somewhere around 2:30 p.m. Were you going anywhere in Daytona that day, sir?
My wife and I were going to go down to Titusville, but I heard a very distinct noise in the back of our Volkswagen. So I turned around and went to Hans's Volkswagen shop on Beach Street. And I had been there previously and bought parts to change the oil in the Volkswagen. And he said he was always open, except for Sunday. So this being on a Monday, I believe, we went there and he was closed the week between Christmas and New Year's.
Sir, I'm going to show you what's been marked as States E for identification purposes. I'm going to hold it up to the camera. Let me know if you can see it okay, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you see that, sir?
Yes.
Okay. And is this a fair and accurate depiction of the location that you went to on the 26th?
Yes.
Anything seem to be changed or altered besides that police vehicle being in the picture?
I really can't remember that well, but it all looks the same.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to also, we'll publish that in a minute for the jury, but tell us what happens when you arrive and it's closed. Do you go up to the door and knock, or what happens?
Well, I went to the door and it had a closed sign on it. And like I told the detective that came and talked to us, I had my prostate removed and I had to go to the bathroom really bad. And when it was closed, when Hans's was closed, I see this little alley, so I stepped into the alley to go to the bathroom. And that's when I noticed at the back, by the fence back there, my first thought was it was a mannequin. Well, then curiosity got the best of me, and I took a few steps back in the alley, and I realized that it was a female body, and there was a distinct odor coming from that area.
Yes, sir. I'm going to show you composite E. This is our second part. It's E2. Can you see that, sir, okay?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recognize this photo? Is this what it looked like when you went back there? What you were able to see?
Yes. Yep. The fence. Yep.
And Judge, at this time, the state would move in states E as a composite.
Any objection?
No objection.
Okay, a composite means there's two pictures as a package, but it'll be admitted as one item. It'll be admitted as evidence. A number for the composite?
5, Your Honor.
5.
Judge, may I publish states 5 while I talk to
How
the
are you
witness?
gonna do that?
I'm going to publish it for the jury, and I'll show.
That's fine.
Yes, sir. So, sir, I'm going to show you which is 5A right here. You can see that picture again, sir? Okay. So the jury's looking at it too. This is the front of the building, and the company you were going to see. Is that BAC company?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
And when you walked around, did you walk around to the right or to the left?
I believe the alley is to the right of Hans's front door, if I remember correctly.
Okay. And now I'm showing the jury it's going to be 5B. And this is the view. You're looking at an air conditioner. I'm going to show you again, sir. You see it right here?
Yes.
Okay. And that was the view you saw. You went to go use the restroom back there. You saw the air conditioner. And then to the left of the air conditioner, that's where you saw the body?
Yes.
Okay. Once you saw that body there, sir, what did you do next?
I immediately left the alley and went to my wife, who was sitting in the Volkswagen, and I said, you should you'll have to call 911. There's a dead body in the alley. And my wife said to me, you get in this car and get me out of here right now, and we will call the authorities when we get back to the motorhome. So that's what we done. I immediately went around, got in the car and left. And when we got back to the motorhome, I called the dispatcher or 911, and he told me, I told him my name and where I was from. You want me to continue with this?
That's okay. You just called and reported it to the police, though?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Just give me one moment, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Vaughan, I don't have any other questions, but if you can hold on, Mr. Shea may have some questions for you, okay, sir?
Absolutely.
Any cross-examination?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Can the witness be excused?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Vaughan? Can you
Yes.
hear me?
Yes.
You can hang up now. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'll call your next witness.
State would call Tom Youngman.
Either place is fine. I just need to adjust the camera. It's all right, don't worry about it. You can go forward, please.
Sir, if you raise your right hand and get sworn.
You solemnly swear affirm that the testimony you shall give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Yes, please, sir.
Around here.
Thank you.
Make sure you speak loud and clear so that yours can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Can you tap on the microphone, make sure it's on? Thank you. May proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Could you please state your entire name and spell your last name for the court reporter?
Thomas Youngman, Youngman.
Sir, are you retired currently?
Yes.
Where are you retired from?
Daytona Beach Police Department.
How long have you been retired?
A little over 3 years.
How long were you with the Daytona Beach Police Department, sir?
A little short of 44 years.
Prior to being with Daytona for those 44 years, did you have any prior experience in law enforcement?
No.
It may be a long answer, but over those 44 years, generally what positions did you fill within the department?
I started in 1974. I did 10 years in the patrol division, responding to calls and such things like that. I did 13 more years in criminal investigation division, detective, investigating all kinds of crimes. And then I retired at 23 years, but I came back the next day as a full-time crime scene investigator for the following 20.
So you were a crime scene investigator for the last 20 years
Yes,
that you were with the department.
correct.
Do you have any specialized training in crime scene investigation?
Yes.
Could you tell the jury generally about your special training?
I have over 3,000 hours in assorted different classes involving any case from homicide, sexual assaults, robberies, frauds, auto theft, arsons.
And while you were a crime scene investigator over those 20 years, did you continue to attend training as new technologies and techniques became available?
Yes, we had conferences and seminars we attended quite regularly.
And safe to say you were a crime scene investigator back in 2005?
Yes.
Could you describe for the jury generally how you would approach a crime scene as the crime scene investigator back in 2005, 2006?
Usually I'll be contacted by a supervisor. They'll let me know where the incident occurred. I would respond. He'd give me a little bit of information. I drive to the scene. I contact them again at the scene, try to find out what they've learned since they've got there. I then proceed studying my portion of the crime scene, taking photographs, diagrams, and collecting evidence.
When you're doing diagrams, would you typically take measurements of a crime scene?
Yes.
And at a crime scene, if you found an item of evidence, let's say you found a shell casing, how would you document and process and package that shell casing?
Usually I take pictures, I start from a distance and I work my way forward towards the evidence of different objects. I'll do that first without any markers, and then I'll do it again with our markers. They're numbered 1 through whatever, 40. And I'll take the pictures again from a distance, walking up to it, take a picture of the piece of evidence showing in that marker what number it is, and I'll refer to my report as that number.
And when you're working larger cases, say homicide, would you often be assisted at the crime scene by other crime scene investigators with the department?
Yes.
I want to go back to December 26th of 2005. Were you contacted to respond to the location of a homicide in Daytona Beach?
Yes, I was.
Where did you respond to, sir?
705 North Beach Street.
What time did you respond? Was it morning, afternoon?
It was, time was about, I have it here, 4:35 p.m.
When you got to the crime scene, I know you described what generally would happen, but were there other officers, detectives, other people from the department already there?
Yes, usually the patrol division out there, they get called to the scene first. They'll contact our crime scene, our detective supervisor, and he'll call me.
Are you pretty familiar with this area of Daytona Beach where this crime scene was?
Yes.
Can you just describe the area for the jury?
The location was between 705 and 703 North Beach Street. It's east of the tracks of Ridgewood Avenue. It is west of the river. Beach Street runs north and south. It's an intersection of Madison Avenue right across from the scene. It's mostly businesses, a couple of bars.
And as part of your documentation of this crime scene, did you take some aerial photographs?
Yes, I did.
Would you also be familiar if I showed you a Google Maps photograph of the area as well?
Yes.
I'll show you at least the first 3 photos of State's Composite F. Tell me if you recognize the area in those 3 photographs.
Yes, I do.
And do they fairly and accurately depict that area?
Yes.
Have they been altered or tampered with in any way you can see?
No.
And did you take regular crime scene photographs as you described to the jury documenting the crime scene?
Yes.
I'm going to show you the remainder of State's F for identification. Just look through those, sir. Do those fairly and accurately depict the crime scene as you observed it on December 26th of 2005?
Yes.
Have they been altered or tampered with in any way you can see?
No.
All right, move State's Composite F into evidence as the next numbered State's exhibit.
Any objection?
No objection.
Okay, without objection, will be admitted as evidence. The
It's number
composite exhibit, right?
It's number 6.
Permission to publish the first couple of these photos, Your Honor?
You may proceed. Are you wish to do that?
I'm going to use the screen, Your Honor.
There, well,
Mr. Youngman, if you, it might be easier for you to step down to point things out for the jury. May you step down, Your Honor?
you may do so.
And this is the first photograph of the composite. I do have a, this helps you, Mr. Youngman. Could you point out for the jury on this Google map where the victim's body was located?
Right, this yellow pin right here.
And for reference, could you point out the Halifax River as well?
This is the Halifax River.
Then going to this aerial photograph. You recognize this area?
Yes.
And could you describe for the jury what we're looking at?
This is North Beach Street, running north and south. This is Madison Avenue. This is the Halifax River.
And can you see in that photograph approximately where the body was located on December 26th?
Right between these two buildings. It's 705 and it's 703.
And what are we looking at here, sir?
A little bit closer, again, Beach Street, Madison Avenue, river up here, and it's a transfer station from the city.
Is it Trent?
Station by the city owned, and the BAC Park Department.
You can return to the stand for a few moments, Mr. Youngman. Thank you. And when you got on scene, did you enter the alleyway?
Yes.
Did you actually take measurements of that alleyway?
Yes, I did.
Did you measure how wide across the alleyway was?
Yes, I did.
And how wide was it, sir?
At the front of the alley, it's 2 feet wide, and it goes back to 1 3/4 at the back of that small building.
So when you're talking about the front of the alleyway, you're talking about the entrance closest to Beach Street?
Yes.
And what did you observe in the alleyway when you entered it?
It was a female deceased on the ground. It looked like she was on her knees, but the top portion of the body was over. Her head was on the ground.
And was she wearing any clothing?
No.
Did you observe any apparent injuries to her body?
There was some damage to her head. Usually on a injury area, it will start decomposing a little bit quicker than the rest of the body.
Did you notice any tattoos on her body?
Yes, several.
Was she wearing any socks?
Socks, yes.
What color were those socks?
White.
And in terms of the alleyway in general, was it a pretty clean area, or was there a lot of trash and debris in there?
A lot of trash.
Now, before the victim is removed from the alleyway, did you photograph her?
Yes,
And so did you basically photograph the alleyway as you found it when you got there?
correct.
And if you can see from there, Mr. Youngman, you can stay, but I'll leave it up to you. What are we looking at in this photograph, sir?
That is the alleyway between the two buildings.
So would Beach Street be to the photographer's back, basically?
Yes, it'd be where I'm standing on the sidewalk and it's north and south behind me.
Next photograph. What are we looking at here, sir?
Again, that's the alleyway. This is the front of the building and going to the back.
So this would have been where the alleyway was, you said 2 feet wide?
Yes,
Okay. And here, sir, what are we looking at?
a little bit closer. A couple of pipes sticking out of the ground, and there was some trash. She's located about the middle, little above the middle of the screen.
And here, sir?
Same thing, a little bit closer.
Just the continued progression of getting closer to the
Yes.
decedent? And so can you see some of the tattoos you were describing or telling the jury about on the body there?
Correct. The lower back, there's one, and the upper right shoulder, there's another one. There's several more on her, too.
And at some point later on, was the victim removed from the alleyway?
Yes.
And who typically does the removing of the body in a situation like this?
Volusia County Medical Examiner's investigator.
After the decedent was removed from the alleyway, did you actually seal the crime scene and return at a later day to continue to search the alleyway?
Yes, it got dark that afternoon, and we couldn't see any further, so we decided to pull away and have it posted over the night, and we'd return in the morning.
Before returning the next day on the 27th, did you attend the autopsy of the victim?
Yes, I did.
And did you observe, when you attend these autopsies, do you observe the medical examiner perform the autopsy?
Yes.
And did you observe the medical examiner collect what's commonly known as a sexual assault kit or swabs from the victim's body?
Yes, I did.
With these autopsies, when you attend and medical examiner collects swabs or a sexual assault kit, do those get turned over to you at the conclusion of the autopsy?
Yes, at the end, I'll sign for them and secure them.
And did that happen in this case?
Yes, it did.
And what did you do with the swabs?
I bring it back to the police department and I lock it up in our crime scene lab, and I'll eventually tag it.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Handing you what's been marked for identification, it states I. Do you recognize the outside of that manila envelope?
Yes, I do.
What does that contain?
This is the oral swab from the autopsy.
The autopsy of the first victim that we're talking about.
Laquetta Gunther, yes.
And just so the jury knows, all that, the red tape that's around there, what's that red tape?
We seal it when we send it to the lab, and the lab will seal it when they get done with it and return it. They initial it. My initials are on the back across the flap, and my handwriting is on it, and my paperwork's on the front of it.
And does FDLE actually have their own evidence tape that they use?
Yes,
Distinguishes the Florida Department of Law Enforcement?
they put their sticker on, the yellow sticky here, and this white one.
Your Honor, at this time, I would move this item into evidence as the next numbered state's exhibit.
Any objection? No objection. Without objection, it'll be admitted as evidence.
State's number 7.
From the crime scene, Mr. Youngman, did you, or from the autopsy, I should say, did you collect the victim's socks?
Yes, I did.
And were these the white socks that she was wearing in the alleyway?
Yes.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Showing you what's been marked for identification states H. You recognize this item, sir?
Yes, I do.
What is this item?
It's the pair of socks belonging to Laquetta Gunther.
Other than the FDLE evidence tape on the outside of the envelopes, as they appear to be in the same or substantially similar condition?
Yes.
Been altered or tampered with in any way you can see?
No.
Your Honor, I move this item into evidence as the next numbered state's exhibit.
Any objection? No objection. Without objection, admitted as evidence.
State's number 8.
And in those pictures we were looking at, Mr. Youngman, there appeared to be a lot of clothing or debris underneath the victim. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And did you actually collect a striped shirt from that alleyway?
Yes, I did.
And did you package that in a similar fashion that you packaged the socks inside that brown envelope?
Paper bag, yes.
Paper bag, sorry. I'm showing you what's marked for identification as... Find it. There you go. States G. You recognize this item?
Yes.
Recognize the envelope?
Yes, I do.
What is this item?
It's the victim's shirt that was found at the scene
Underneath her body?
under, yes,
In the same or substantially similar condition?
yes,
Been altered or tampered with in any way you can see?
no.
Your Honor, I move this item into evidence as the next numbered state's exhibit.
No objection. Without objection, admitted as evidence.
State's number 9.
While she's marking that, Your Honor, may Mr. Youngman publish states 8?
May do so.
If you can just stand up, Mr. Youngman, hold that up for the jury. And again, was that the only clothing on the decedent when you found her?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. And permission to publish states 9.
May do so.
Thank you, sir. Now, having attended the autopsy, did you become aware of what injuries Miss Gunther had?
Yes.
And what was that?
She had a bullet hole in the back of the head, exit up the front, and went into her right hand.
And the items that you collect at a crime scene, anytime you collect items at a crime scene, after they're packaged and put at the Daytona Beach Police Department, can they be sent from there to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement for testing?
Yes, they are.
And are you a part of that process?
Some items, yes.
And do you actually, how does that work when you're a part of it?
I do my evidence sheet, was attached to that bag. I'll turn it into the evidence of property section. We had a list in the book. I turn it in there. Evidence of property gets it, and we submit a request to have them processed. Either myself or a detective on the case will request that.
And in this case related to Ms. Gunther, were multiple items submitted to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement?
Yes.
Did you and other crime scene investigators make an effort in this case at that crime scene to locate any shell casings?
Yes, we did.
Could you describe for the jury the lengths you went through to try to locate any shell casings that might have been in that alleyway?
We came back the next day and we started digging. We have a sifter that we put on the outside, and we take pails of dirt from the scene, dump it on the sifter, and go through it, see if there's any casings, projectiles, or any piece of evidence we can find.
And were you and other investigators able to ever locate a projectile, a casing from that alleyway?
No, not at that time.
I just have one moment, Your Honor.
You may.
Mr. Youngman, in your efforts to try to locate a casing in that alleyway, did you even try to use a metal detector?
Yes, we did.
Did you have any problems with using a metal detector in that location?
Very much so. It picks up metal, and those buildings are both built with rebar in the cement blocks. That picks it up. It's very sensitive. A lot of bottle caps, pieces of metal. It just kept going off. It was very hard to use.
And I just want to make clear for the jury, with your position as a crime scene investigator, do you have or share in the responsibilities of interviewing witnesses or things of that nature?
No,
So you're strictly focused on the crime scene?
correct.
Thank you, sir. I have no further questions. I will tend to the witness.
Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Good morning, Detective Youngman.
Good morning.
It's always a pleasure. You recall the condition of Ms. Gunther's body when you located her?
Yes.
As far as...
Your voice is very soft. You need to
What?
put the microphone in front of you so we can hear you.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Do you recall the condition of Ms. Gunther's body when you were in there discovering her?
Yes.
Can you describe if it was in decomposition?
She started decomposing. Like I said, her head, because of the injury, decomposed a little bit faster. It was almost black. Other parts turning like a greenish color of decomposing.
Did you find any evidence of possible rodent injury as well?
It could have been.
And how do you believe it could have been?
Just the way it is on the body, it doesn't look like somebody cut her, or it just like a chunk out of her.
Yes, sir. From the time that you located her, is there any estimate of how long she had been in the alley from your perspective as an investigator?
No, I don't try to guess that.
Yes, sir. However, would it be correct to say that she had been there before the 26th of December?
Yes.
Now, you were shown the state's exhibit on the shirt. You indicated her clothing was it found under her, near her, or?
Under her,
It was under her body?
yes.
How much clothing was under her body?
There was pants, the shirt, maybe a jacket nearby.
And when you say under her body, she apparently was on all four, her knees leaning forward, is that correct from the photograph?
The way I found it, yes.
And were the clothing under her knees or under her chest, or where were they?
Just under her, generally, it was all under her.
Could she have been kneeling on them?
Could have been.
And it's your testimony that you did not discover a spent projectile where you were removing the body,
No, I did not find it.
nor did you find a spent projectile.
I did not know.
Was there a spent projectile or a shell casing found out there?
Not when I was there, no.
Do you know whether there ever was a shell
It
casing
was later found, yes.
at her scene?
It would have been on her scene, it was stuck to her shirt.
A shell casing,
Shell casing, yes.
but you didn't find a projectile?
No projectile.
You were present when the medical examiner did the sexual kit, is that correct?
Yes,
Did you observe that being done by the doctor, his assistant, or who did that?
I believe the doctor did it.
Did he, can you, from your memory and observation, did he just take a mouth swab, or can you tell how deep he went into her mouth?
No, just in her mouth it went.
And I'm trying to get a recollection, obviously, this goes back a long time, but it's your indication that he would have opened her mouth and put the swab into her mouth?
Yes, normally they would do that, yes.
Would he go down deep into the throat?
I don't recall that.
But it is a general practice that it would have been just a mouth swab.
Usually, yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your patience. I want to be sure I don't miss anything. Thank you, Detective.
All right, thank you. Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. You may step down. You have another short witness?
Yes, we do, Your Honor. We call Bobby Grimm.
Careful coming down.
Raise your right hand, be sworn in.
Do solemnly swear affirm that the testimony you shall give this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Come around here, please.
Just watch those 2 steps. Have a seat. Thank you.
Be sure you speak loud and clear so that yours can hear what you have to say.
Yes, sir. May I inquire, Your Honor?
Give me 1 second. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, could you please state your entire name and spell your last name for the court reporter?
Robert Francis Grimm, Jr. Last name is Grim.
Sir, where do you work?
Work for the Department of Homeland Security.
And do you live here in Florida?
No, I live in Pennsylvania.
Were you previously employed with the Daytona Beach Police Department?
Yes.
And for what years were you with the Daytona Beach Police Department?
1991 to 2006.
In 2005 and then 2006, before you left, what was your rank with the police department?
Police detective.
And what types of crimes were you responsible for investigating, sir?
Just prior to my leaving, I was a homicide detective.
Back on December 26th of 2005, did you respond to an address on North Beach Street in relation to a homicide?
Yes.
Can you describe that location for the jury, sir?
It's not super suburban, but it's not rural either. There was a car shop there and a small pump house, and then a bar across the street. And I don't remember anything. It's been a while, so I don't remember what else is there.
I understand. Did you speak with other officers and detectives when you got to the crime scene?
I did.
And were you given kind of a report or an update on what had happened thus far, or what had been discovered
Yes.
thus far? Did you attend the autopsy related to that crime?
Yes.
You just got to wait till I finish answering the question.
Sorry, yeah.
Asking the question.
I apologize. I speak kind of fast, so.
That's fine.
And slow down the rate of speech just
Yes.
a little bit.
I do. I talk kind of, just remind me, God bumped me a little bit. I talk kind of fast.
Yeah.
You just don't want-
A machine gun.
Yeah.
Slow down just a little.
Yes, sir.
I'll remind you so she doesn't have to.
Okay.
All right. So you said you attended the autopsy,
Yes.
and was that victim identified?
Yes.
Was that through fingerprints?
Yes.
And was she identified as Laquetta Gunther?
Yes.
Now, with being a homicide detective, when a new case would come up like this one back then, would your agency assign somebody as kind of the lead detective or the case agent?
Yes.
And were you assigned as the lead detective at that time related to this homicide on North Beach Street?
Yes.
Did you end up doing what's called a neighborhood canvass?
Yes.
What is a neighborhood canvass, just generally so the jury can understand?
I just would go to an area, get out of my car, walk on foot, stop at residences, stop people on the street, talk to them, see if they knew the victim or knew anything about, they had heard about the incident, if they had any information regarding it. Usually give out my card. If you have any information, please call me.
Through the canvass of the neighborhood and doing interviews, investigating the case, were you able to find out whether or not the victim frequented that area on Beach Street?
Yes.
And did she frequent that area?
Yes.
And through your investigation up until mid-January of 2006, did your investigation discover any viable suspects?
You'd have to be specific. I wouldn't remember if I...
Did you have any significant...
Yeah, yes. Yes.
Up until January of 2006?
I'd have to read my report, but I believe there were some leads that we followed up on.
Okay. So leads you followed up on, but there was no significant suspect?
No.
Okay. And then going out of order a little bit here, did you also respond to a crime scene in January of 2006? A homicide crime scene?
January 2006. Yes.
Was that out in the Bayberry Lakes area?
Yes.
Could you describe that location for the jury?
At the time, it was a new subdivision being constructed, so there were no homes there yet. There were some streets that were partially paved, so it was kind of a grassy area. not wooded, but it was already cleared. That grass had been growing. That's all I remember.
They say a new subdivision where houses being actively put up kind of in that community
Yes.
still?
Yes.
You still gotta wait for me to finish asking the question.
Okay.
And at that crime scene, did you actually assist with locating any pieces of evidence? We're talking about the Bayberry Lakes crime scene.
Yes.
And what pieces of evidence did you assist crime scene investigators with locating?
The projectile, the bullet.
And how did that come about? How did you help find it?
They were looking for the projectile and were unsuccessful. And towards the end of the day, I just felt I was determined to assist in helping find it. So with the assistance of Detective Temi Pera, I utilized a metal detector that Tom Youngman provided me, and we searched the area around where her body was found and located the projectile in some dirt.
And to your knowledge, did Tom Youngman collect that projectile?
Yes,
And we're saying projectile, is that basically a bullet?
the bullet. Yes.
A bullet that's been shot by a gun?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have any involvement in the third homicide related to this case, the one involving Iwana Patton that occurred near where the Daytona Beach Police Department is currently?
I responded, but I was no longer assigned to the case, so I was not involved much with that.
And were you not assigned to the case because you were starting to step away to go somewhere else?
Yes.
Okay. May I have just one moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Just one more question for you, Mr. Grimm. Ms. Gunther, where she was located on North Beach Street in the alleyway, is that in Volusia County, Florida?
Yes.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Good morning, Detective.
Good morning.
On that area where Ms. Gunther was located, you just testified about, is that an area known for prostitution?
Yes.
And you mentioned a bar being kind of catty-corner across the street. You remember the name of the bar?
Chubby's Bar.
In your investigation, did you check with anyone at Chubby's Bar to see if they had seen Ms. Gunther the evening or any time about the time of the crime?
I talked to the owner, according to my report, but I didn't locate anybody that they knew her, but we're not aware of what happened to her.
Was there also a projectile located out in the streets by a gentleman several days later?
I apologize, I don't recall that.
So pretty much the extent then of your investigation or your participation was the testimony you've just given?
Yes, sir.
You were asked questions about the second homicide, Ms. Green. Is that located out on the west side of town, kind of actually just off of the LPG Boulevard?
Yes.
And how far was that from where Ms. Gunther was located?
I could only give you an approximate, maybe 5 miles. I don't know exactly.
But that was country out there
Yes.
compared to where Ms. Gunther was located?
Yes.
Did you, in your investigation, participate completely when the body was first found out there? In other words, when Mr. Youngman was taking photographs, were you present?
I was present.
Do you recall the condition of the body? In other words, I guess I'm at, just one moment. The state said they would grant me some leeway in cross-examination. I would like to introduce some photographs of the crime scene. Thank you, sir.
I'd just like to clarify which crime scene Mr. Shays.
Mr. Green. I guess there's a photographs here. Okay, very good. Thank you, sir. I'm going to show you photograph A1. This is going to be if you'll look at that.
You'll have to keep your voice up if you're not going to be in front of a microphone.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Is that a photograph or depiction of the crime scene where you located Ms. Green?
Yes,
I'm going to show you a second, you have marked it as A2. Is that a second photograph a little bit of a distance?
yes,
On that photograph, did you notice any tire tracks that were located on that photograph and ultimately photographed by Mr. Youngman?
I don't recall. I apologize.
I'm going to show you photograph A4. This is a picture of Ms. Green's left bottom of her foot. Can you tell me what you observed on the bottom of her left foot?
Looks like dirt.
A little bit of dirt or a lot of dirt?
A lot of dirt, some grass, little bits of grass.
Could it also be grease?
I don't know. I can't tell.
Do you know whether a sample was taken of that? Was ever on the bottom of her foot?
I don't know, sir.
Let me show you a picture of her right foot. You see the same substance on the bottom of the right foot.
Yeah, I see dirt. I see their feet are dirty. Yeah.
More than normal dirt that you would be walking around in the dirt, does it not appear to have a substance as opposed to just dirt?
I couldn't say.
Okay. I'm going to show you a picture again of both feet, again taken by Mr. Youngman.
It's very important that we identify the items by ID number. What's this one that you're looking at now? Bottom right.
A6.
A6, okay.
Apologize. Also, there were pictures of her clothing. This is A7. Was that, from your recollection, a picture of where her clothing was located?
Yes.
And in that picture, do you see a pair of tennis shoes or sneakers?
Yes.
She was not wearing those tennis shoes or sneakers, to your knowledge?
No.
And I want to be sure that we get it straight. You have no recollection of collecting a sample of that substance for testing?
No.
You don't have any?
No.
Would that be something that you would have directed Mr. Youngman to do or not do?
No, he would have directed me to do it if that was the case. That did not happen.
Very good. Were you in attendance or go out to pull it out in D-Land at any time during the investigation?
I was.
And what's the name of that operation in D-Land that you visited?
I don't remember without reading my report.
Would it help you if I told you it was you Pullets?
Yes, yeah.
And what kind of an operation was that?
It was a surveillance operation.
What?
It was a surveillance operation.
Did you Pullet operation or the store out there, what kind of a business was it?
They have car parts. They sell parts off of used cars or junk cars.
Was it a big operation?
It was a big operation.
Several acres?
Yes.
If I show you a photograph, A10, would that be a great depiction of the view bullet location?
I can't say definitively without. It's been a long time since I've been there, so I can't say.
Well, that photograph was taken at the time in 2006, so is it?
You're saying this?
Do you have a memory for being at that location?
No,
Did you go to that location?
I did. My report says I did. I don't remember it.
Okay. And this would be another photograph, an aerial photograph, A11 and A12, showing the same location. But is your testimony you don't have a memory for it being out there?
I just don't remember. It's been so long.
Well, let me ask you why you were out there.
I believe we were. There was a subject they were following at that location, a possible suspect.
And why was that person a possible suspect that you followed them out there?
I don't know. I don't recall. I was no longer in charge of the case, so.
Well, who would have been responsible for sending detectives out there if it were not you?
Detective Tammy Para.
Pardon me?
Detective Tammy Para.
Did she report to you any reason why they were out there?
Objection, question calls for hearsay.
I can re-ask that of Detective Perry, Your Honor. Your Honor, if I may, I'd like to introduce it into evidence as a composite exhibit.
What's this estate? I don't want the jury to get confused, and there's several topics that you covered with the various photographs all mixed in. So if you can break them down as, something that relates to one topic and something that relates to another, that might be more
Yes, sir.
fruitful.
Judge, the state has no objection to A1, 2, A3 is blank, A4, A5, A6, and A7.
As a composite exhibit?
Yes, that's fine, Judge.
All right, are you okay with that?
I am, Your Honor.
Okay, so A1 through A7 will be admitted as a composite exhibit for the defense. And the other ones,
I can wait until we call Detective Perry.
very well, okay? All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any redirect?
Very quickly, Judge. Detective Grimm, were you responsible for processing the crime scene for the Julie Green homicide?
Yes.
But, were you the lead crime scene investigator?
I was not the crime scene investigator, no.
Okay, so were you assisting Tom Youngman?
Yes.
Would it have been Tom Youngman who took the photographs at the crime scene?
Yes.
Is that why you weren't entirely familiar with some of those photographs?
Correct.
Thank you, sir. I have no further questions.
All right, thank you. Any recross?
No, Your Honor.
All right, may the witness be excused. State,
Yes, Your Honor.
defense,
Yes, sir.
you are released from the subpoena. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, we're going to take our lunch break at this time. I want to remind you once again, as you go through this process, you learn more and more about the case, and there's always that temptation of wanting to go look things up. Do not talk to anybody. Do not let anybody talk to you about this case. You talk among yourselves about the case. We learn from within the courtroom what the case is about, not some independent source, okay? So let's maintain that. You'll follow the bailiff out, and he'll show you outside of the courthouse. There'll be people out in the courthouse. Don't talk to them. Leave your nose face down. We will reconvene. I want you back here at 1:15, okay? 1:15, and we'll try to get started by 1:30. And you report right back to the door. Were you coming in and out into the back area?
To the judge's hall.